Welcome back. I'm Shane, this is Relative Time, and today on this rainy Saturday afternoon, I'm going to attempt another mod project, all thanks to the good folks at SKXMod. Today, I'm going to take this everyday Casio and turn it into a fully custom metal CasiOak. At least that's the plan. With this one, I'm a little bit nervous about swapping out the dial and hands, so we'll see. But let's start things off by first taking a look at what SKXMod sent me. This giant box, and that I believe has the case and bracelet, and then a number of little components to check out. Let me just get these all out and we'll go through them. So take a look at the big box first. And I believe this contains case backs, couple different colors if I wanted. The case itself, which I decided to go with a steel and black bezel version. As well as we have rubber strap and a bracelet we'll check out later. As for the individual components, let me put on some finger cots before I touch those. So first off, they sent a couple different chapter rings to check out. Not sure which is which. I kind of sent them a list of parts that I was interested in, and I think they sent me some extras just in case I wanted to see what else I could do. So this, we have a glossy metal chapter ring. And I think this one is going to be another silver chapter ring, but in a matte finish. Yep, looks like that's what it is. Now it looks like they kind of went overboard with different dials to check out. There was one in particular I asked them to send me, but looks like they sent some extras. So we'll check all of these out one at a time. Look like they sent 6. Now when I was originally looking at all the different components, this is the dial I first picked out. Just because I thought it was really cool, this waffle dial light blue texture on it. But the thing is, when they kind of showed me what the case looked like, I did not think that these were gonna match. I thought it was just gonna look way too weird. But looks like they sent it anyways for me to check out. For this one, looks like we have a black waffle dial with a rose gold subdial. Is another waffle dial with a black subdial, so just all pure black. Then it looks like we have silver on silver, silver on black, which looks particularly cool. So for this one, I've decided to go with the black and silver, just to keep a black and silver color scheme going throughout. Keep it simple, keep it classy. Then these last two little packets are the hands, and I'll save these for when we're ready for them. All right, so first things first, let's start taking apart the original Casio. First things first, let's take off the straps. Probably don't need the screwdriver for, but just makes it easier. Get this shroud off. And with that, I believe this shroud should just sort of come off. Now, one thing to note here is if all you're interested in is putting on a metal case and you're happy with the dial and the hands and all that, this is pretty much as far as you need to go. You just take off the old shroud and then just put the new one on and screw it back in. And that's pretty much it. So the case part is pretty easy, but the rest of it, I think it's gonna be a little more tricky. And one thing is that this is a little more boring than it normally is, because normally I'd have some music playing, but can't really do that here. If anything, it just helps keep me focused and distracted on and the boring parts. So for this part, in order to get the module out, at least according to the video I watched, they just sort of pried it out with a screwdriver. You would think there's an easier way, but we'll see. I think this chaptering just sort of comes off. Looks like it's actually glued on. Next step is getting the hands off, and this is where I'm getting a little nervous about it. I've taken hands off before, but never off a digital, and never quite like this. Just put that on there and try to protect it. Now, technically, I don't need to reuse the dial or these hands, so I guess I don't need to be that careful, but you always should. Yeah, that one's just a little bit weird to get out. Next step is to get the dial off, and I think it just pries off if I remember their video right. Looks like it was just sort of stuck on there with some adhesive tape, and that's actually one thing that's kind of surprised me here. Now, as far as I know, they didn't really include any other adhesive here, so it either sticks on with the same tape or just sticks on naturally. Personally, I'd prefer it if there was a little bit more to it than that, but you know. But here, hopefully you can get a good look at the two different dials. One's just the old one plastic, and this one is a lot heavier. Similar look, but the sub dial kind of makes it look a little nicer. And I believe I have this on right, but I'm a little concerned that it's not perfectly lined up. I'm not really sure how you tell if it is or not. Now, it looks like they sent me two identical sets of hands, but I'm guessing the difference between the two is going to be in the color of loom. So I'm going to go check that real quick with a UV flashlight so I can pick out which ones I want. All right, so I was correct. One's green C3, one is blue BGW9. Normally they don't mix and match colors, but since they did send me two handsets, I'm gonna be a little extra fancy and do blue for the hour and minutes and then green for the sub dial. Now, normally when you set hands on a watch, you wanna make sure that the movement is actually set and you're lining the hands up correctly before you do anything. But with a lot of quartz watches, and particularly G-Shocks, you can actually adjust the time after the fact, so you don't really need to worry about it. But I think it's still good practice to try. That might actually be it. Surprisingly easy. Little hand was still hard, but a lot easier than setting a second hand. That's what I was really concerned about. So I guess now we put the chapter ring on and put it in the case. And for this, I guess you just line it up and push it down. That adhesive is still there. Yeah, it's on there. And it's always good just to blow out any dust that's around. With whatever this little blower thing is actually called. I don't really know the real name. Since the hands seem to work, it's now time to put a case back on and then put it in the metal case. All right, so they sent two giant case backs, but it looks like these are not made to go back on this, made to go back on the big case. Question is, does the regular case back go back on before I do that? I'm gonna assume yes here. If I'm wrong and it doesn't fit, I'll just take it back off. And for this, it should just slide right in. Like that. And looks like I was wrong. It actually does use those screw holes. So take the old case back off. All right, so just kind of watch their own tutorial, and yes, the original case back goes back on this part of it, and then their new special case back goes over that. You just don't screw in the original case back first, which is a little weird, but let's just roll with it. So this beefy case back's kind of weird, but I guess it does complete the look when you got a bigger case. Just kind of odd that you put the one case over the other case, but I guess that's how you ensure water resistance. And I will say that one thing I found confusing is when you're doing it with all these different parts, knowing which screws go with which screws in these kind of unmarked little bags that it came with does get pretty confusing. Not entirely sure what the point of this fake little button thing here is, but all right. Now after this, I have a choice of either going with the rubber strap or the bracelet that it came with. And I'll put both on and get some nice B-roll with each. Now as typical, I'm gonna spend a few days wearing this, and then future Shane will come back and tell you what he thinks. In the meantime, the one other thing I need to do is watch the video tutorial on how to readjust the hands, because especially that subdial hand is way off. Once again, it's future Shane here, and I'm back after I've spent a little bit of time with this modded out CasiOak. For the most part, I think the CasiOak mod looks great. Everything came together nicely. Where there's some slight improvement with the hands, giving it some added depth, as well as I love the textured pattern on the dial. I mentioned my first choice was to go with that blue dial, but it would not have worked with this case. Although I think it would have worked with the original white case. But what I have here right now with the new case and bracelet, they have a great solid feel to them. But I gotta say, I'm a little mixed on this one, at least compared to the mod I did on the Casio Royale. With the Royale, I'd say it was an improvement across the board. There's no negative with those mods. And I think that's because with the Royale, you have a great design that's really worked into a cheaply built watch. For those Royale fans, I'm sorry, but it's true. So once you swap out those cheaper components for a better case and bracelet, I think you wind up with a build that's really worthy of the design. Where here, it's a G-Shock, so you already know it has a pretty solid build. The CasiOak was already a little bit of a bigger watch, but thanks to the polymer build, it was also relatively thin and lightweight. And those are two things you lose when you do this mod, as now it's about 14.5 millimeters tall and around 180 grams on its bracelet. So there's definitely going to be some give and take here if you go this route. And that 180 grams is heavier than I like on this watch. I will say that it is pretty balanced on its bracelet when on the wrist. But because of that weight, I vastly preferred it on the rubber strap. Plus the two-tone look with that strap looks really cool. Otherwise, I still got a couple of gripes, like still not sure what this fake crown is here for, they just really need to ditch it. While I do like the texture on the dial, sometimes it does look a little empty without the Casio branding. And with the bracelet, the lug prongs, or whatever you want to call these things that stick out, whatever they are, they don't perfectly line up with the bracelet. They stick up just a little bit. And one big negative thing with that bracelet is that I wound up stripping a screw. Although, strangely enough, it wasn't when I was sizing it or fitting it on the case, but when I was trying to remove it off the case. For some reason, on one side, when I was trying to unscrew it, it just got stuck. And after some attempts of trying to push it back in or unscrew it back out, it must have stripped it, and was just able to push it out through the other end without much force. So that's not good. But luckily, SKXMod does provide some extra screws, perhaps for just that reason. And since I prefer it on the rubber strap, I'm probably not going to use that bracelet anyways. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. If you're interested in what kind of magic you can pull off with a CasiOak or even a Casio Royale, be sure to go check out SKXMod. And And as always, let me know what you think about all this down below, what you think about the mod project itself, what you think about the CasiOak or SKXMod. And if you enjoyed this video, you might like some of the others, so think about subscribing. I'm Shane, this is Relative Time, and if I don't see you again before the holidays, have a good one.